Welcome to the Plan Your Federal Retirement Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Shalansky, and today we're going to be getting into 5 missteps, 5 mistakes, 5 things that go wrong when you're planning your retirement. And I gotta say, these are things that we consistently see time and time again. And the great part is most of the stuff is all preventable if you can see it coming. So to dive more into detail with this, I invited back on the podcast my father, Floyd Shalansky, with over 40 years of working with clients side by side, hand in hand, doing this to share a lot of that wisdom. Pops, welcome back to the pod.
Well, thank you. I sure appreciate being here and sharing some of my knowledge, or is it my wisdom? Which one is it? A
Your
little
wisdom.
bit of both, okay?
Wisdom. We can Google knowledge, but wisdom, on the other hand,
It's a tough
is
one,
the
right?
important
Yeah.
one. Pops, you know the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right?
Someone once told me that's a simple explanation. Knowing that a tomato is a fruit is knowledge. Wisdom is don't put it in the fruit salad.
Amen. That's 100% in. So we're going to talk about what not to put in the fruit salad of your retirement. All right, that was a hard segue, but I'm trying here. So we want to get into these different areas, and Pops and I were kind of jamming on this a little bit pregame, working through different mistakes that we see, there are themes of different mistakes that we see. And so we're going to go through it as kind of the slowly roll up to the big one. The big one, we're going to make it, nice and big in your mind. And the good news is once I say it, everyone's going to be, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Those are the ones to be careful of, by the way, because the minute we say something, oh, no problem, I got this taken care of. Look, there's a reason I'm bringing this up is because this is something we see time and time again. And Pops, one of the things that you love to say is it's not what you think you know or think it's not what you don't know that's a problem. It's what you think you know that just ain't so. And this is the area that bites people in the butt. So I want you to really listen to these. And if you think I got it in the bag, I want you to take a deeper look, pull that back just a little bit, and let's dive into some details on it.
You know, Micah, when I was before I got out of the military, we always ragged at the senior enlisted and officers. We call them road guards, ROAD, retired on active duty. And at the time when I was in the service, I kind of resented it. But today, I talk a lot of our clients about that. I kind of want you to be retired on active duty. Let's get used to this before all of a sudden you're in it up to here and you're not really ready for it.
All right. So the first mistake, or I guess the fifth, we'll do a countdown here. The fifth top thing that we see in this is when retirement goes wrong, is you're not mentally ready to retire. And this can seem like a little thing, right? Now, this isn't you're fed up with your job, you're ready for the next thing, but you may have checked the box financially. We're going to talk about that one later, but you're mentally not ready to make a change.
We saw that in the fork in the road that was issued out. How
That's
many
right.
people that we were planning to retire in the next 7-8 months anyway, but when they offered that fork in the road, it's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And from like 5 different clients that we've talked to, and most recently in that live seminar we did up in Anchorage, people would come in and say, I didn't think I'd be going out like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, well, wait a minute. You were going to retire in 9 months anyway. They're just giving you an opportunity to go a little quicker. What's the difference? Well, in their mindset, it isn't my choice now. I'm being forced in this corner to do that. And you think that might affect you mentally?
100%.
Yeah, I kind of think so. Yeah, you bet.
100%. So what's one of the ways that we can fix this? One, think in ranges, not in exact times, right? So with my clients, a couple things I try to get them to do is to think of a range of when they would like to retire. When is the soonest that you would like to be able to retire financial independence? And then go backwards, right? No, you don't get to retire. You have to keep working. All right. But when is the soonest that you would like to be able to retire? And then how many years are you okay working? Now, this seems like a little thing, but when we create a range all of a sudden, now clients are like, all right, well, I could retire if I wanted to, but I still want to work and we can still feel this out a little bit. But when the rug kind of gets pulled out from underneath them and retirement is forced a little bit sooner, they were already mentally thinking about it. And this is a big change. Going in from working every single day to being retired every single day is a big mental shift. So, Dad, to your point about the road guard, the sooner we can mentally start transitioning to this while we're working, right? Still working, still getting your stuff done, etc. But you're mentally exploring this retirement. You're mentally seeing yourself there. The easier that transition is going to be.
Micah, it's like you and I, we both approach planning very similar, get to the same results, but a little different in the presentations. Hopefully you'll agree with me that we like to start like 5 years out. And in that 5-year period of time, if you're not ready, let's get you financially ready to retire. And 2 to 3 years out, we want you living on what we project that FERS pension to be, what the supplement's going to be if you're going to get it, or Social Security. Let's see if we can get that spending in that range. So that way, if an opportunity comes or if these things happen that, hey, it's time to exit, you already know you can do it. Because I know my biggest fear is if I quit working and I don't get a paycheck, how are you going to pay all the bills? Now, it's a mental thing, and that's what we have to get through. So many times I put 2 objectives up for my pre-retirees. One is a monetary number, okay? And the other one, or I guess, monetary number. The other one's monetary, but in expenses. So the size of the TSP, size of the assets, revenue coming in, and then your expenses. And so many times when we walk
Pop,
off...
I got to put you on hold real fast. You're going way too far. You're going into like the 2-in-1 things right now. It's not where we're at.
Well, you asked me to get taught. Okay.
All right,
I'll
so
slow
this is
down.
good
Throw the
stuff,
drag
right?
shoe
But that's
out.
a tease. That's a tease because there are things that we need to talk about kind of leading up to that one a little bit. All right, so the 4th mistake that we see when people are getting ready to retire is they don't have a daily game plan, right? And this is going to build into cash flow a little bit in the future, but what's your daily game plan going to be? Like, how do you stay relevant? How do you keep on top? What's your social circle going to look like, right? What are those things that you're going to do? Because you're used to getting up and going to work. You're used to this commute. You're used to picking up your coffee. You're used to all of these other things. Now, all of a sudden that stops. What are you going to do to replace it to stay in a good mental health?
How many times have we heard that Joe or Bill or Sam, they keep coming around in the morning to drink coffee from their old shop? And they hang around the coffee pot just to visit because they don't know what to go do. I've got clients that were in the inspection arena and they happen to see a truck doing an inspection. They'll pull over and talk to the guys because it lets them anchor themselves back versus, okay, that's in the rearview mirror. Let's look out the front windshield. What's next? What are we going to do? Whether it's volunteering, travel, or I don't know about you guys, but my wife's got a honeydew project that's 13 years long. So once I'm retired, she says, I know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, these are important things though, right? What's your day-to-day look like? What's your long-term going to look like? What are these things that you're going to do? I love to see calendars that are lit out. What's the bucket list? The big thing I go back to with my clients is it's not so much about a money thing. It's an experience and memories thing. What experiences do we want to have? What memories do we want to create while we still can? And then, Pops, that kind of leads into the 3rd mistake that we see people make is they're getting pre-retired, right? So they're getting ready to retire and they go into it with the wrong investment plan. Now, this doesn't mean all of a sudden they move them from the C fund to the S fund, et cetera, right? But you have 3 different stages of money in your life. You have the first stage, which is the accumulation stage, right? I got to grow. I got to get enough, right? You're maximum the TSP. You're putting money in the Roth. You're doing all this other stuff and the money is growing. Then it gets to a point where we're getting closer to financial independence and says, okay, I'm moving from accumulation to preservation. I changed the type of life that I'm in from a growth strategy to a preservation. That means I should probably change how I'm invested. And then we go from a preservation stage to a distribution stage, right? Which again, when we make that shift, this is a different investment plan that we need to be looking at. What got you here will not get you there in retirement. That doesn't mean what you're doing is bad in the accumulation phase. You're doing what you're supposed to do, stuffing money in, letting it grow for the long term, et cetera. But now you have to use that money in retirement. And I see 2 big mistakes here, Pops, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. Is the first one is that people get too conservative too quick. They're like, okay, I have enough, move everything to the G fund, right? And boom, it's there. Okay, well, the short term, that's going to feel really good, but you have this nasty little thing called inflation, which is really going to bite you in the butt in about 10 years, and the G fund just isn't going to hack it. Doesn't mean the G fund's bad. It's really good at what it does. Outpacing inflation is not the main focus of the G fund. So there's the too conservative, and then you also have the too aggressive that says, hey, I'm going to just keep everything invested. I'm not going to make any changes. This worked really well for me. I'm going to keep it all in the long run, which works great until 1 of 2 things happen. 1, you need money, or 2, the market goes down in retirement. Now we don't have a plan for it.
Micah, as you're talking about that, I can remember Feds that after the towers went down in 2000 or 01, and the whole comment was, oh my God, my 401ks become a 201k. I can't retire. So they're focused on that number. But they want to ratchet back just a little bit. Everything we just talked about doesn't have hard cliffs. There's not a day that you make this
Mhm.
adjustment. There's not a day you go from conservative to
Great
moderate,
points.
right? And the third thing, there's only one thing that mandates we take money out of these plans. And the government decided that for us, didn't they?
That's right. The RMDs, required minimum distributions between 73 and 75. You have to start taking money out, whether you want to or not.
And how many times have you? I know I see it all the time that my retirees, they take this money out and they're really excited and they got bumped into a higher tax bracket, and then they've got to go back and they start paying higher for Medicare costs, and it's a confounding thing because they weren't prepared for it. They didn't think about it. Got plenty of money, but isn't that a horrible thing? Too much money creates another problem, a taxable problem.
These are things we have to be ahead of, right? So getting in front of all of these things, that's why we're having the podcast, right? We want you guys to share this with so many other federal employees so you can see these mistakes coming and don't just kind of brush them off saying this won't happen to me. There's a reason these made it to our top 5 list. We see it time and time again, and we want you guys to avoid it. So being proactive on your investment plan, not reactive on your investment plan. All right, that leads us to the second mistake that we see, Pops. And this is one that we're spending more and more time working with our clients on, more and more time thinking about. And it's not really on the financial aspect, but it has a big financial impact. And that's, what is your age in place plan? Did you know that OPM rejects 20 to 30% of the federal retirement applications that come in due to errors? One of the most common errors that we see working with clients is not understanding our RSCD date, our retirement service computation date, which is how much time you have that actually counts towards your retirement. Just a hint, it's not the SCD. It could very well be different than just your service computation date. Misunderstanding this can lead to costly mistakes in your entire retirement planning. Our free guide on how to verify your RSCD is going to help you understand the different types of service computation you have and how to accurately determine and check with your HR in a very critical way to make sure you have the right RSCD for planning your retirement. To download this free guide, go to our website, follow this link below that you're going to see to make sure you get the most accurate information on your federal employee benefits. Get the facts and avoid costly mistakes. Download this guide now and secure your retirement. Until then, happy planning.
You know, Micah, and I tell my clients, you know, when you retire, you're going to move. Where are you going to move? I'm going to go home. Well, you can go back, but hardly seldom can you go back home. 1, 2, and this is where I get a lot of pushback. You're going to have at least 3 more moves in your lives once you build your retirement home, because you're going to get everything you wanted, and then all of a sudden you're going to downsize or right size. And then because of age, you may want to move closer to family. How do you get prepared for that? And I know we talk a lot about, you know, long-term care, you know, and that doesn't mean buy an insurance policy. Long-term care is, I believe, aging in place. And that's part of the estate planning role. And it should be a major part of that third stage of your retirement planning. You know, Micah, we go from go-go, I'm retired, I'm traveling, I'm doing this, I'm doing all of this. Then perhaps medically or age-wise, we go to go slow. And then there comes a time, there's a no-go time. And before we get to no-go, we want to make sure you're able to age in place as you want it to be. Not like the kids, Micah, want it to be for mom and dad, but like you want it to be. I think that's something no one spends enough time talking about.
If you don't want me to decide your care, you should have put my name on all those documents. Well, all right, we got to readdress that. No, but Pops, you bring up some really good points, right? Which is, what is that age in place plan? Do your kids know what that age in place plan? And not just the long-term care side. I want to back this up before that, right? What are you doing now physically to make sure you're taken care of, right? Finances is great because you can delegate a lot of the financial work in order to be done. Fitness, you cannot. Your health, you cannot. That's 100% on you. You can get coaches, you can get doctors, you can get things to say you need to do. But so much research is coming out more and more. And let's talk about Alzheimer's, right? A lot of Alzheimer's reports are now coming out as diabetes, type 3 diabetes. Pro and con with this. One thing with type 3 diabetes is a lot of it's preventable. Yes, there's some gene work and I'm over my skis here. I'm sure there's some doctors listening that says, Micah, it's not exactly right. So with a grain of salt here, right? But there's some genetics that make you more predisposed than others. But other aspects of this is it's self-induced. Is what are we doing to take care of our own healthcare? And Pops, you were reading a study earlier this week, that the health you have between your 50s and 60s, whether it's good or bad, you will get that benefit or you will pay that price for your health in your 70s and 80s. So now, and again, you're not getting younger than you are today. What are you doing to commit to your health? You're doing all this stuff to commit to your finances, to make sure you're financially taken care of. Well, if all of a sudden you're financially taken care of, but you're not in a cognitive or a physical place to go do the things you want to do, is that really a good position to be in?
Without a doubt. And I think you see that. Well, I know we see it in all the advertisements that are going on today, whether it's health clubs or increased protein or I was reading the New York Times this morning. I know, don't shoot me for that paper, but I was reading the Times, and there's a lot of conversation about how seniors should be exercising more. And whether it's for the cognitive side or just to help them age better as they move along. But the reality is there's a high probability many people listen to the podcast, Micah, are going to live 10 to 15 years longer than their mother or father did.
That's right.
So average life expectancy by the rules today is, gentlemen, we're going to pass away at 80.6 years. And good news or bad news, your spouses or the ladies with you are going to live 5 more years. Okay, that's the average. But when we flip on the other side of the average, 100 plus, 103, 105. And in fact, a lot of the software that we, put things through, they used to stop at 77. And I think the last one I looked at, Micah, was running projections out to 105 because they think that might be the future that we're going to deal with.
Hey, Pops, did you see that article that came out that says you should, on a fitness side, that, it's better for your mental health and physical health if you work out with your son 3 to 4 times a week?
No, I thought it was your girlfriend or your wife. I didn't see.
No. You didn't see the sun one? All right, I'm going to go write an article real quick. I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, I'm looking outside. Yeah. I don't see the sun, so.
But no, these are important things, right? What is that fitness plan that's between you and your bride, right? You and your spouse, and how are you going to have that? How does that fit into this picture? And this is, in my opinion, a lot to do with finance, because the better physically you are, the better mental capacity you have, the better decisions that you're going to be able to make. So this aging plan, and not a lot of advisors are talking about it, right? We all want to, but it's like, how do you put your arms around this? And so this is really, really important. All right, Pops, and that kind of leads us to the number one thing, which you were alluding to earlier, right? Because it's always our go-to, because this is the heartbeat of retirement. And you guys, our listeners, always know what that means: cash flow. Cash flow is the heartbeat of retirement. But Pops, there's a couple of words that whenever a client or a new client says these, I get a little concerned. What are those?
I deserve this. I worked hard, and this is my reward for those 30, 40 years I put in, putting up with it. I deserve this. Or the other flip of it is I earned it, deserved and earned, back and forth. I call it head trash. That's all wrapped up here. We've got to kind of set that aside, because you're where you're at. Wished I woulda, coulda, shoulda. I got the t-shirt. I should have done that a long time ago, but we didn't. We're here. So now as we're here, let's get ready for that next stage. And that's where I was blabbing on before, is like, I want 3 to 5 years of reserve set aside, and 2 to 3 years before you actually say, I'm done, I'm retiring. You're living off that projected retirement income. So we know what the gap is that we talk so much about, Micah. How do we fill that gap? Is it going to come from Social Security? Is it going to come from the TSP? I'm going to move to a place, that's less expensive to live. All these conversations before you go, adios, I'm done, I'm gone, right off to the sunset.
Pops, when I hear that I deserve this, there's a comedian that was out there, it's escaping me who it is right now, but he has this whole bit about when you drink a little too much, right? He nails it. Like when you're just drinking a little bit and you're fine, and you have a little bit more, and you have that last beer that you shouldn't had, right? And then all of a sudden that last one, it just tipped the scales, and now you're going to get sick. Walks through that process. We all know what that's like. But he stops in the middle of this bit and he goes, but remember, you deserve this. Because that's how we justified getting into drinking too much. And that's how we justify getting into spending too much as well. It's the
I deserve that RV for $300,000. I reserve that, mansion. I can afford it.
Yeah, right. And sometimes you're in a financial position that you can do it, and rock on, more power to you. But if you're not in that financial position, be really, really careful, because this could be a death nail in your retirement. Because again, we're solving for longevity as well. So be really careful with that. And as we get into cash flow, really important. I like to break cash flow. A couple things with cash flow. One, you should know what you spend on a monthly basis in round numbers. I don't need it to the penny. And you should know the top 3 to 5 categories in where you spend your money. I don't like budgets. I don't like the B word. People generally aren't happy talking about it. And a budget is reviewing everything we did last year, right? And there's nothing I can do about money you've already spent. So I want to talk about cash flow planning, looking into the future and going forward. How are you spending money? I always like to break those down into 5 categories: household, travel, entertainment, medical, and kids. If kids or grandkids, they're just expensive, right? So they're kind of their own little category. And say, great, how much do we spend in each of these? And there should be a range. And what generally happens is when we're not tracking it, we put everything on one credit card. One credit card 1 month is $5,000 over what we normally spend. And then when I kind of ask clients about it, I say, what happened that month? Says, oh, well, we had to buy some tickets to go down south. But good news, we had a companion fare. I was like, that's amazing. So how much were the tickets? It was $1,100 plus the companion fare. Let's say it's $200. So it's like, okay, so you spent $1,300, but you're $5,000 over what you normally spent. Where'd the other $4,000 go, right? And what happens when we don't separate out the expenses, we kind of point the finger on the one thing that's not it. And so really what I like is this is a nice accountability tool. And I use it personally myself between my wife and I. It's to say, are we on track? And sometimes we're not, but we got to look at it and say, great, how do I get back on track next month?
One of my challenges I have when I work with the feds and we start going the planning process, I always ask that question: tell me about your monthly expenses. And out come the spreadsheets, out come the Quicken runs. And I turn it upside down and I'd say, okay, but tell me what you spent. Well. No, it's not well. Mentally, you should know that. I want to say you got it.
Yes.
You should know that. All right. And there's a little exercise that I do. I take the tax return and here's your gross income, call it 100,000. You paid taxes and Social Security, it was 30 or 40,000. So you just 100 minus 40 is 60. That's $5,000 a month. Okay. And you told me you're only spending 3. Where's the other 2,000 at?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's just a 30,000 foot view, right? But when you get into it and you peel the pieces of the onion back, so many times they simply don't know. It used to be I got a line item for, the internet, the telephone, groceries. And now they say, well, my Visa bill is this. What do you mean is this?
Right.
Well, I put all that stuff in the Visa bill because I want the air miles.
I get the points.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And to your point, all of a sudden it bumps up. We'll rationalize it. Well, I deserve to go do that, right? And then it gets paid off. But all of a sudden that $3,000 credit card bill is 35, 38, 41, 5,000. Oh my God, for what? I got 20,000 on this 20% interest credit card. What do I do? Go get a loan from your TSP, right? No, we got to fix the problem. Right. Yeah.
So those are the things to really look at, right? And we're not dogging you on your spending or anything like that. We just got to have an honest conversation about it. It is what it is. But if we're planning on longevity for retirement, kind of pops some nice goals. And the other advisors in our firm is we want to keep you happily retired. And if we start seeing these things come up, we need to hit the pause button and say, hey, are we on track for this? Is this something we need to adjust our spending to? Are we off track? Are we on track? Where are we at with this is really, really important. Well, Papa San, this podcast is all about action items for our listeners, about what things can they do this week to be better prepared for retirement. And what I'm going to say is we went through 5 major things that we see. Starting at the bottom, it was what goes wrong with retirement if you're not mentally ready. Then we went into what's your daily game plan when you're retired, what's your investment plan, what's your age plan, what's your cash flow plan. Pick one of those 5, right? And say, how am I going to dive into this a little bit more? Maybe listen to the podcast on that section to get a little bit more and start just generally writing out kind of what that plan is going to be for one of those sections.
Micah, and then I encourage them, get someone to hold them accountable. That's our job, right? But if you don't log on and book an appointment with Micah or myself or one of the other advisors, get someone to hold you accountable, because it's easy if you're not accountable to let it slip. Well, I'll get it to tomorrow. Well, I'll do that next day. Well, I'm too busy right now, or my stress level's here, or that bottle of wine's calling me. It's easy to do that. But if we have someone that calls you, not text you, picks up the phone, hey, Micah, have you done this yet? Have you done that yet? Have you done that yet? You have a tendency to go, you don't want to lie to them. So you have a tendency, more of a propensity to do those things.
100%. Well, Pops, thank you so much to our listeners. Make sure you share this podcast, send it out. Our goal to help another 1 million federal employees with their retirement. And we cannot do this without your help. So thank you so much, Pops. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, happy planning.
Happy planning. Ciao.